right, so this is Brennen and John with Insightt, and just a quick summary of how Insightt all came to be. We're going to talk about like why Insightt was created in the first place, and then we're going to get to know you a little bit more, John. We're gonna make this a little personable. A lot of people might have seen your face all throughout the years, and you've kind of been in hiatus for the last couple years. And I don't know if people, the newer people in the industry really know who you are and what your story is. So I'm gonna pass this mic and we're just gonna ask a couple questions.
Okay. So, which one's the Zoom?
This is you. I'll tell Brennen to look here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. My name's John. I've been in the industry for over a decade. I originally in college, I studied graphic design and computer science. My brother had a small repossession business and he was looking for ways to grow it. He was really great at knocking heads and keeping people working in the field, and he wanted to build some strategy around scaling the company. Well, there was actually three of us, my brother David, Amy, and myself, and we all brought different qualities to the table that sometimes you have one person who can do it all, but repossession is a very complex business. So Amy was great with the books and with the office. I was great with strategy, and Dave was great with operations. And we put our heads together and looked for ways to grow the company. We leveraged LPR, and we also made sure that we covered every zip code in Ohio. When the banks looked what company to use in Ohio, they didn't really have to look up zip codes. They could just say, oh, Relentless is in Ohio. It was a huge learning experience for me. We found different ways to leverage technology. And I think for me, the biggest thing at Relentless is I learned all of the pain points, and there's a lot of pain points that you can experience in running a repossession business. Very early on, we saw many of the major lenders were looking for repossession companies with a strong LPR strategy. So one of the first things we did was leverage and explain what our strategy was and provide that to the lenders as part of our marketing to them. That landed us some really great relationships. Just actually running license plate recognition, especially as you're trying to cover a large area, cover a state, cover multiple states. You've got really expensive hardware. You want to keep that hardware operating and keep people behind the steering wheel scanning plates as much as you can. So, part of the operation is ensuring that you're shifting your cars out. We looked into different strategies, and one of the ones we kind of came up with was utilizing a scout car, what we called a scout car that was just dedicated to what we called grid scanning. Moving your car around an area and providing coverage, but also focusing on another thing that we called repossession dense areas. Areas where a lot of repossessions happen. You increase the probability of creating historicals and getting live hits when you're concentrating on areas where in the past a lot of repossessions have come out of those areas.
Yeah, and you guys are, and just for the people that might not know the entire story, this, when we talk about grid scanning, like Relentless was like one of the first people to actually do this and really make LPR into what it's kind of like. I think a lot of companies have adopted since then. I think you guys are one of the very first companies to really like focus in on LPR and really put it to like running your business around LPR. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of companies have since done that. That seems to be like kind of like what the theme is today. But man, you guys were like one of the first people to do it. Mm-hmm. So, for the people that like, when we use terms like grid scanning and stuff like that, yeah, that's cool because we all know how to do that today. But again, you guys were like one of the very first people to do that and to really build the business around it. So, hats off to you guys for accomplishing that. So I remember literally, let's go back 8+ years ago, right? Maybe even a little longer than that. I remember the conversations you and I used to have from operator to operator. And I know that you had always had a very analytical mind, something that I gravitated towards because I wasn't very analytical and I wanted to understand my business better. And it seemed like you had a lot of answers already. So you went from college, got your degree in college, you transitioned your college experience into the business, and then from being in the business, you kind of, did a lot of analytical things over at the repo company at Relentless, and then you transitioned from there into a data scientist, essentially, right? So that's what your primary focus is now. So tell us about the transition from early on college experience to real world operation experience to what you are and what you do today as a data scientist.
Sure. My time at Relentless was a really great time for me, and it taught me a lot of the pain points in the industry. And at some point I wanted to learn, what is the full vertical of this industry? What are the different types of companies that are in the industry? And I wanted to be able to solve the problems a repossession company has. But the only way to really solve that is to really understand how a forwarder works and how a platform that manages cases works. And so I transitioned from Relentless to a role managing a license plate recognition network that covered the whole United States. That allowed me to start understanding and applying some of the things I learned at the small scale on a large scale.
So you went from essentially learning LPR operations from a company level to more so like an industry-wide level, right? So your view went from here to way up there.
Yeah, absolutely, Brennen. After being there for a while, what I saw is that I would have to make a transition at some point. There was a lot of big changes in the industry and companies were consolidating. And so at that point, I realized, hey, I need to do some retraining and to tune my skill set. I started then, and I spent a long time studying specifically Python and databases. Python is a computer language. It's very simple to write and to read, I think, at least.
It's definitely not simple by any means.
But it's really great for data science. It's really great for analyzing data and building models. The basis of license plate recognition is pattern recognition on letters on a license plate. And so, quite honestly, that was really what started me down that road is, okay, how is this done? What languages can it be done in? And then I realized as I started studying Python that there was a really large ecosystem there in terms of understanding how to solve problems in your business. So I found my passion, and that is, very interestingly, it's a balance between understanding the repossession industry and understanding the pain points there, and also being able to use computer code to solve those problems and to be able to write Python. So between those two things, it's created a course for me that I think is unique in the industry.
So in layman's terms, you geek out on being able to see a huge problem and dissecting those problems by little pieces and creating solutions of how to solve those little problems that in return solves big giant problems.
Absolutely, yeah. How I see my role now is being able to take a problem, find a solution for it, and automate that solution so that it might be and this is what I see often in the industry, is we solve complex problems with manpower, and that adds up to huge amounts of time and a huge cost. With the right study and the right analysis, you can kind of boil that down to a problem you can solve by writing some code, and suddenly thousands of man hours across the industry become just a click of the button. And so that, for me, being able to solve problems like that, that's a pretty amazing thing. Sure. Was it somebody's birthday or something? Why did we go out that one night? Because I was going to tell a story about your manager puking on me. I think we should. One of the ways that I learned a lot in the industry is going to national conventions like NARS. And I would go there, I would do the classes, but I think for myself, the place where I learned the most was talking to other agents like Brennen. We would talk about how we were solving problems in our companies, what problems we were having. And, one of these events, it was well over a decade ago. I was talking with him, it was shortly after I met him, and he said, hey, let's go out on the town for the evening. So a bunch of us went out on the town, and he had some of his staff with him. We had a really good evening. One of his
We had a really good evening.
Yes.
Maybe not so much for you.
One of his staff might have had a little bit too much to drink. So on the way back,
Understatement.
He puked over the seat onto my shoulder in the front seat, and that was really the first time I've actually hung out with Brennen. After my path through the industry and learning at a lot of these different companies, learning how different aspects of the companies work, not just at the repossession level, but in the middle market and all the way up to the lending institutions. Circling back, I was on LinkedIn, and Brennen and I connected again, and we started talking. And when I started working with him, it was just kind of a funny arc that we've gone on, where that was how I first met him, and here we are 10 years later, again working together. So,
and during the course of that first experience, we obviously saw each other, every year, not just NARS, but other conferences as well. We were both very active in the industry, and so we knew each other. We developed a relationship, and then John leaves the agent side of the business, and you venture into other things, right? A lot of years go by, and John's no longer anywhere where we see each other, right? So we're not really in communication anymore. And then one day you post on LinkedIn, and you post some really interesting things. And this is right around the time that Insightt was maybe 4 years or so in development with a handful of beta testers, right? So we had a handful of beta testers. I had these really big ideas of what we wanted to accomplish with Insightt, and we were at a very small stage. It took a long time for us to get there, but the stage that we were at was very infant, right? And then you post this on LinkedIn, and I'm like, holy crap, it's John Ziebro. And when I saw that ad and I saw what you posted, immediately I was like, this is God sent. Like, this is heaven sent. There's no way that John Ziebro is available right now, right? So I remember all of our early conversations from the days that you were at Relentless. And I remember being in, not to sound like a little schoolboy or anything, but I was in awe of everything that you were able to accomplish. You were a pioneer on a lot of the things that people were 10 years behind on. You were the Tesla of the repo. And honestly, you were so far advanced from everybody else that, no, to me. So I'm telling you my perspective, my viewpoint. I was always attracted to everything that you guys were doing. And, iron sharpens iron, right? So I was very attracted to everything that you guys were able to accomplish. And, those big things that you've done tell me that, hey, this is a good mixture of everything that we're trying to accomplish with Insightt. So when I saw that, immediately I engaged with you. I said, John, what's up? It's Brennen. It's been a lot of years, but how's life? How you been doing? What's going on? I wanted to re-engage with you. And so that's essentially how that all sparked, right? We got in contact with one another. We had a couple phone conversations. I was trying to tell you, what Insightt was, and what, most importantly, what I hope it to be in the future. And at the time, you were looking. You were putting yourself out on the market, and you were looking for something. And you might be able to explain this a little bit better than I could, but the engagement that we initially had, for me, meant a lot because I already knew you, and I knew what John Ziebro was capable of doing, and just from everything that you've already done. And so I'm like, man, what a win, right? So tell us a little bit about, your first thoughts. We didn't really know each other very well. We knew each other, but not personally to where we kept in touch throughout the year. So tell us a little bit about the story of how we re-engaged and how we ended up ultimately working together.
I wanted to solve some of the problems in the repossession industry, and I was working on those. But what I found is that unless you own a repossession company and you actually have real data that you can work with, it becomes hard. So I was creating synthetic data that I could actually model and try and work on some of the problems that are present in the industry. And I ended up posting some of that online on LinkedIn while I was doing my job search. and you ran across it. I got to show you some of what I was working on, and then you showed me Insightt and what you were working on. You were like, have you seen this? I'd never actually looked at it. I'd seen that you were posting that stuff, but I hadn't looked at it. And I got a chance to look at what you're doing. And for me, it seemed like a really awesome fit, because now I can take the pain points I learned, the knowledge I gained from the vertical in the industry, and the language that I learned, and bring it all together and apply it not just to one company, but I think for me, part of the passion here at Insightt is to bring some of these solutions to the whole industry across all of the repossession companies and solve problems that everybody has. And like we said, you have to throw a lot of manpower at, but now we can easily solve those for you.
So what's the big picture with Insightt and some of the things that you want to see happen in the platform and some of the experiences that you've had by analyzing the data that it generates?
Over the last year and a half that I've been here, I've got a chance to dig into everything to see what the data says and to analyze the data. I've got to do projects where we looked at the change in performance of a company prior to Insightt while on Insightt. And we've identified there can be upwards of a 15% increase on average in performance in the field from using the platform. Those are pretty amazing things to look at and be involved in changing the industry. One of the things I used to say when I was at my repossession company is that when you don't have a analytical view, when you don't have information that's being surfaced to you to explain to you what's going on inside of your company, and this is kind of a funny little statement, but it's like running through a graveyard at midnight in pitch black. You're going to end up running into a gravestone, and most likely that'll be the gravestone of your company. So being able to surface information, you're able to navigate the hard points of the company and to navigate the problems. And so one of the amazing things about Insightt and being able to do the data analysis that I've worked on and that we're working on is that we're able to streamline that and to provide that on moment's notice to a company owner, to company management, on how to navigate and make data-driven decisions about their company. Okay. So, I know, I get it. I'm just trying to find a way for me to say it naturally without, it's actually, still have some issue with it. Here's a really cool thing. We've only been out for a year. Yeah. And we have some really cool things in the pipeline that I think are going to have a major impact on the industry. Already we're getting feedback from some of our clients where they say, hey, we can immediately tell which companies are using Insightt, which agencies are using Insightt, and which agencies are not using Insightt. So that tells us we're moving in the right direction. If the client can see a change in performance, then we're doing the right thing. So I think back in the day, if I had access to Insightt when I was scaling my company, we would have scaled not just to cover a single state, but I would have also scaled to cover the states surrounding Ohio. It's a pretty amazing tool. It gives you insight into understanding what's happening inside your company, but also in the branches of your company. And you get laser focus, X-ray vision into being able to say, hey, there's a problem in this certain branch. How are we going to change it? How am I going to make a data-driven decision to change it? There's some major companies on the platform, and I would love it if more companies in the industry get involved, take a chance on our free trial, and see what Insightt can do for you over this coming year.
So with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is John Ziebro, who has a wealth of information that he's accumulated over a very, very long course of being exposed to not just one part of the industry, but a holistic view of the entire industry in very many different viewpoints. And I couldn't be happier to have him part of the team. And we're working on a lot of stuff right now to bring even more insight to and more visibility to the agencies. So, very excited to have you on the team, John. And I can't wait to showcase to everyone all the things that we've been working very, very hard on. And I know that you guys are going to be able to benefit from it greatly. So with all that, John, again, I'm super excited. Can't wait to start changing the game with you, brother.
Thank you.